more. Just wait a minute.
Can I have y'all's attention, please? Can I have your attention? The secretary would like to call on Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And Mr. Chairman, this is a point of inquiry for the whole committee. Could you please enlighten us to some factual background regarding the idea that somebody on this committee became a granddaddy for the first time over the weekend? Could you tell us about that?
I had somebody tell me that was the first time they had seen me smile all session. Thank you for pointing that out, Chairman Fleming. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope your weekend was half as good as mine. And we're going to move through the calendar.
Born during the storm. Was she born during the storm?
No. We're going to do a supplemental calendar for today. We're going to do a calendar for tomorrow, and depending on how things move today, because we got a lot of committees turning out a lot of stuff, so that we don't get backed up at the end, we may have another short supplemental calendar later on today. But if we do, then we'll come back in here and we'll deal with that then. What? Leader Burns.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. I just wanted to make sure it was noted, well noted, that he's definitely old enough to be a granddaddy.
Okay. Senator Ligon, tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations. I bring before you Senate Bill 52, which is the annual code revision bill, which corrects errors and actually, I think, reenacts the code. And be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Ligon, I appreciate you being here. The errors in this bill that we seek to correct, did they all begin because we passed Senate bills?
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but can't admit to that. But I'm sure that there were some Senate bills that had some errors, and it was probably evenly distributed. So
Might have been one House bill. I hear you.
One House bill. But if we don't pass it because we are reauthorizing the code, the state would descend into lawlessness and chaos. So we need to reauthorize the code.
It is a very important measure, and we do this on an annual basis, and I appreciate you bringing it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have no other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Houston.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Today I bring you House Bill 455. House Bill 455 creates the Georgia Agricultural Marketing Authority. This authority will oversee farmers markets in our state. The authority will consist of 10 members, 3 appointed by the Speaker, 3 by the Lieutenant Governor, and 3 by the Governor. The 10th member will be the Commissioner of Agriculture, who will serve as chairman and ex officio member. This authority is very similar to the one we created to oversee the state fairgrounds. And since the state fairgrounds authority has been enacted, we've seen much success. And I feel by creating this authority, we can help revive farmers markets in Georgia. Do I have any questions?
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Chairman Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They come quickly. In a amount of 10 years, I had 7 grandchildren. So once the door gets open, you don't know what's going to happen. I come today again to ask for House Bill 126. And this is to give official recognition to the Georgia Best program the Department of Labor developed for soft skills training. I think it's a good bill. I don't think there's anyone that's opposed to it, and would certainly appreciate your favorable consideration on it. And it's the fourth one down on the front of the page there.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to ask for two bills. They're both on the second page or the back of the sheet. The first one is the very top, House Bill 472. This administration bill is the DFACS bill for this year. It does several things, including helping Georgia to prepare for the changes coming in 2020 with the implementation of the Federal Families First Act. And very important, it also helps to better define and clarify judicial options in juvenile courts for placement of children in alternate options before we send them to foster care.
You have no questions.
And then the second bill is House Bill 352, which is also on the back page and is the fourth from the bottom. This administration bill is a sunset extension of the sales exemption that Georgia has used since 2012, sales tax exemption since 2012, for sales tax on construction materials for specially selected projects of competitive and regional significance. It moves the sunset to June 30th of 2024.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On your first page, HB 300, this one we've talked about before. It's changing the name from Continuing Care Retirement Community to Life Plan Community. I offer that up for y'all's consideration.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dubnik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on a fun-filled weekend. We look forward to seeing more pictures. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, on the back, on the back under structured rule, third one down, House Bill 287. This bill seeks to support our primary care preceptors, those physicians in Georgia who are training medical students, and this would convert an existing tax deduction to a tax credit.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Laricchia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the back page under structured rule, the very last one, House Bill 447. It is the extension of the sunset on the jet fuel tax, and the change to that bill is adding the 1/2 penny per gallon excise tax used to generate revenue to draw down some federal match to go to general aviation airports.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 227. It's about the bottom third of the page on the front under modified structured rule. This will expand the insurance discrimination protections afforded to victims of domestic violence to those who are victims of sexual assault.
You have no questions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do hate to disagree with the leader, but you don't look nearly old enough to be a grandfather. But today I'm looking at HB 212. HB 212, it's on the front page, 6 from the top. It is a pretty simple bill. It establishes that retailers of manufactured homes are not mortgage brokers, so there's no need to license them as such. They may compile and transmit documents from customer to lender or lender to customer, much like the transaction that happens when you purchase a car. This is done solely to facilitate the sale of a manufactured home. Retailer does not charge a fee for compiling and transmitting from the customer, nor does the retailer receive a fee from the lender. Both the Department of Banking and Finance and the Georgia Manufactured Housing Association fully support this bill It passed unanimously out of the Banks and Banking.
I don't know what you did, but you got lots of questions. Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was trying to look over the bill here as we were talking about it, and I don't see what I was looking for, and I'll just ask you. I know that Chairman Corbett had a bill a couple of years ago. We tried to clean up a lot of problems with abandoned trailers and the local licensing and how they were treated by local governments, trying to fix the problem. This bill is not going to address any of that or touch that, is it?
No, sir. Chairman Corbett did a great job in cleaning that up. It was a great help. This has nothing to do with that. No, sir.
Not going to affect local licensing or anything like that?
No, sir. None at all.
Okay, thank you so much.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question. I kind of underlined mortgage loan originator, dropped the requirements. It just brought back some nightmares from the middle 2000s. They got all our departments cut because the finance system failed. I always have a problem when we start deleting requirements for people who have to originate loans. We had folk walk out of McDonald's and become loan originators in the 2000s.
Well, thank you for the question. The issue here is not, these people absolutely do not originate loans. These people will fax a W-2 to a lender out of state. It's like when you go buy, well, Chairman Williams, it might not impact you, but when I go to buy a new car, I generally don't have the $30,000 it takes to purchase that said car in my account. So I will, when I go in, I'll see the sales manager. All he wants to do is sell me a car. And if I don't have financing in place, he may facilitate sending my W-2 to another lender, but he does not negotiate rates, does not approve me for a loan. And what we're saying here is if you're not a mortgage broker, there's no need to call you a mortgage broker. But thank you for the question.
One follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just happen
If
to
that's
have
okay, Mr. Chairman.
happen to have 30,000 in my pocket when I go down to buy a car.
Representative Hughley. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman, can you tell me about the consumer protections that are going to be in place for consumers if we do this?
Well, the consumer protections are already in place. This is basically the definition, and if you notice on page 1 on line 13, the changes are under what a mortgage broker is called. And this specifically says it does not include these people. So it has no bearing on that, Representative.
Representative Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, is it not true that the Georgia Department of Banking and Finance intensely studied this matter and is very comfortable with the way that language, they are the regulators?
Yes, sir, they are the regulators, and this language actually is their language. So, yes, sir, they do fully support because they helped to author it. Thank you for that.
Representative Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Yield.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have a question about the size of the manufactured home. Today you can do sort of manufactured townhomes that can be, 12, 15 units that are manufactured homes, but they could take up sort of a half of a block. Does that apply to those as well? Or is it just singular sort of modular homes? Is there a size differential?
Okay, I apologize. I don't want to run up to you like some do because I didn't fully hear all of the question that you had.
Yep.
So would you mind repeating that again?
Yeah, on the manufactured homes, is there a size requirement?
No, sir.
Okay, so to follow up, if you will, so townhomes could be included in that particular space, in that language?
The definition of manufactured home is listed elsewhere, but there's no size requirement that it's associated.
You have no other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, members. Chairman Smith.
I move that House Bill 84 be recommitted to insurance.
Is there a second? Second. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Chairman Lumpson.
I'd like to ask for House Bill 387. It's not on the sheet yet. It passed out of judiciary on Friday. This is a bill that deals with private, nonprofit, volunteer fire departments and conforming liens. Approximately 25% of the fire service in Georgia is provided by private, nonprofit, volunteer fire departments, and most are structured as 501Cs. A substantial number of these are subscription-based services. Property owners who subscribe to the service pay an annual subscription fee, and in the event of fire, the department responds. Property owners who do not subscribe may request the fire department respond to a fire, but they do so knowing they are responsible for the cost associated with putting out the fire. In the event the owner does not pay for the service requested, then this bill simply provides for a means of collection at a future date by placing the cost of the service on a list of conforming liens as listed under Code Section 4414-320.
Leader Burns.
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases you and the committee, I'd ask that we recommit HB 382 to Natural Resources for a couple of little small changes. It's on the general calendar, Mr. Chairman. It's not on the consideration calendar. HB 382.
Is there a second? Second. Any objection? Hearing none, it's so ordered. Representative Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for two bills under Modified Open Rule 242. This is the regulation of massage therapy. It says on our blue sheets that it really pertains to educational programs, but this bill is much more than that. It provides statutory actions dealing with the illicit establishments we have in the state, and we know we have a major problem with that, among other things. It's an important piece of legislation. House Bill 253 pertains to occupational therapists. This number of things in this bill, but the main part of this bill, and I think most important part, is the telemedicine, where they can, out of Augusta, where one of the schools is, they, along with the occupational therapists, can help patients in rural areas and outlying areas. So I'd ask for your consideration for both these bills.
Chairman Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'd like to ask consideration for House Bill 365. It's on the back under structured, third from the bottom. As it relates to title ad valorem tax, this actually fixes a loophole that we've addressed in previous versions, but had not made it all the way to passage and signature by the governor. So we would actually address the used car loophole, and all the industry players have weighed in on this and are comfortable. We also are able to lower the rate to 6.6%. From 7. No, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to put my name by HB 447, the jet fuel tax bill, and then also Representative Dubnik's bill 287 about the physician's tax credit.
Chairman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of you know that I raise donkeys, but today I feel like a pack mule. I have 4 bills for you. And the first one is on the back page under structured rules. It's the second one, House Bill 168. And this is for the community health centers, our FQHCs. It is to extend their tax break for 5 years. Any questions? Okay.
No question.
The second one is House Bill 367, and it's on the front page under modified structure, second from the bottom. This is an act that's required to maintain our accreditation with the NAIC. It will create a new filing for each insurer. It will be done every year instead of every 5 years, and that will help the department be able to make sure their consumers are being covered and things are in good shape with the carriers. The third one is House Bill 368, and that's on the front page, modified structure. It's the last bill. And this is one for Georgia domestic insurance carriers to be able to divide into 2 companies. The commissioner has the authority to monitor these, make sure that they are stable companies, and that each new insurer will be created by a division, and they will each have to certify as a carrier. And the last bill is House Bill 491, and it's on the back page, structured, and it's second from the top. Again, this is an NAIC accreditation standards that we must get passed before January of 2020. And it is currently, there are 26 states that have adopted this model, and it allows the state of Georgia to act as a group-wide supervisor for internationally active insurance groups. Thank you.
Well, you almost single-handedly wiped out the rest of the calendar.
Sorry. Thank you.
And you have no questions. Chairman Harrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On the second page, just down from the top, the bold type structured rule calendar, I'd like to put my name by that calendar.
Did all of those come through Ways and Means?
Yes, sir, they did.
I'm sure somebody's got an objection. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I think Chairman Harrell's already asked for my House Bill 132. It's the top one under structured rule on the back of the page. This simply allows fully earned film or post-production tax credits to be transferred to a wholly owned subsidiary. They're being filed under the same tax return anyhow. The only alternative is for the subsidiary that earned the credit to sell them into the marketplace, which then they have to take a discount on the funds they would have otherwise been able to use on this unified return. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions. Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 314 under already asked for structured rules. I'll ask for that bill, which has no tax implication to the consumer or the state, and it gives them a title which the banks have been asking for boats for quite some time. 244 is on the modified structured poll attachment bill, and I'd like to put my name beside House Bill 300, which is Representative Smith's healthcare bill.
Chairman Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under modified open rule, the third one down, House Bill 109, teacher retirement system bill. We're not making any changes to the type of retirement it is, but we're adding some conditions to be able to draw full retirement. And if I could, I'd like to have that moved to structured. So we, I'm just teasing. Be glad to answer any questions.
Chairman Harrell might object to that. He seems to have like priority on structure.
Well, that's the way it was last year too, so.
Tell us a little bit more about 109.
We are changing some of the requirements that in order for beginning teachers that sign a contract July 1st, 2019. The first thing is that
We're changing the number of years that are taken to get an average to start their retirement from 2 to 5. We found that there was some bumping up of salaries by local for superintendents or principals or whatever. So you'll take 5 years instead of 2, and they can only be 2 raises in that 5-year period. We're changing the COLA from 1 to 3. That's what it is right now, but it will be based on CPI. We are doing away with unused sick leave toward retirement. That is a more recent thing, 1996, and it is the second biggest cost to the retirement system besides COLAs, because no one has put any money in there for that. And so, you know, there's been some concern about teachers using their sick days, but local systems can come up with an incentive for them not to use sick days rather than the retirement system having to bear that cost. We're also looking at the age to retire. Right now it is you can full retirement at 30 years, and we have a lot of people that retire at 51, 52. And so we are raising that to the rule of 85, that if you got 30 years in, then your age plus 30 must equal 85, so that would be 55 would be the youngest you could retire. It changes people that get into teaching late and maybe do just 10 years to be vested. You have to be 62 to draw the retirement in that case. And
and this only applies to new hires.
Only applies to new hires. It does not apply to anybody that is a retiree now or a teacher now.
Are there questions?
A lot of this came out in an audit in January that the auditor said that teacher retirement needed to do in order to put itself in a better fiscal shape.
Chairman Martin.
I don't know if I'm on now. I think the leader has broken my microphone, Mr. Chairman.
I think they wore it out.
Yes, sir. Chairman Benton, I wanted to ask a question specifically. I have several on the bill, but not to belabor time. On lines 56 through 59, the chair just asked if it affects just the new teachers. And on 56 through 59, on contributions, it reads an individual who first becomes a member or who withdraws his or her accumulated contributions on or after July 1st, 2019. And it changes the new effective rate of contribution. So that appears to say, the way I read that is, if you're not retired yet, your contributions can go up as well, and that would affect current teachers. How am I not reading that correctly?
The way it was intended, the way it was worded was that if you are a teacher and you withdraw, you're in the system, but you leave teaching and withdraw your money, and you come back after July the 1st of 2019, then you start it at the new rate. But if you don't withdraw your money, then you're still considered part of the teacher retirement, and so the rate would not change if you came back to teaching. Let's say that a lady takes off for 10 years to raise her kids. Well, she's still in the retirement system, and she goes back to teaching. She's still going to be under the old system.
I understand what you're saying there, but I mean, the plain reading of it, and somebody else can read it, it says an or means if you first become a member after 2019, that's if somebody starts, or if you withdraw your accumulated contributions after that date. Well, if I'm a current teacher and I leave my profession to raise my family and then I come back, I still haven't withdrawn my contributions. So if there's somebody in the system and they haven't withdrawn their contributions, the way I'm reading this is they would be It may be inadvertent, but they would be included in that language.
That's not the intention of the verbiage. The intention
I understand that's not your
But
intention.
that-
I
but
believe the
that's-
gentleman, but I believe that's the way it reads.
Well,
We can work on that or get a clarification.
Any other questions? Mr. Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clear that I'm understanding what's actually in this bill. So there's all the things you listed are in this bill. There's nothing, you said, just to the chairman, the sick leave provision where we're not, if teachers have accrued, 10 months of sick leave, that's not going to be able to be applied towards their retirement in terms of their years of service. For new teachers we hire moving forward, that will not be available to them, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the rule of 85 will apply for teachers moving forward, as you said?
It'll be those that are hired after July 1st of this year.
One last question. The COLA provision, you said 1 to 3. I didn't understand exactly how that applies. What does that mean?
It applies only to those that are hired. Right now, teachers get a COLA twice a year, retired teachers. New hires will get a COLA, but it will depend on what the CPI is. It won't be an automatic amount.
It'll be the lesser of CPI or what?
If the CPI goes up to 4, then they can only get, the highest they can get is a 3.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Any other questions? Chairman Tankersley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 456. It's the last one under modified open rule. And this measure is designed just simply to address an issue that some of our small rural cities experience. And they're experiencing these problems because of the current expense cap. Current law does allow local governments with a population of less than 1,500 people or 300,000 in expenditures to forego an annual audit, and instead they can have agreed upon procedures with a CPA every year. The use of agreed upon procedures in lieu of an audit would save small rural cities a good bit of money, especially when they're all struggling now to meet day-to-day expenses, and they do that with very limited resources. According to the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts, the problem is in the expenditure expense amount of $300,000. This is especially the case now as small cities even get a portion of SPLOST monies and grant monies, and these are not recurring expenses that they have, so they can't justify an annual full-fledged audit. But anyway, the plan would be to alleviate that problem by simply raising the cap, and the Georgia Department of Audit and Accounts review these agreed upon procedures just like an audit, and they can keep their qualified government status. So the expense cap has been raised in the past, one time in 2004, and that was 11 years after this code section was put into place, and now 15 years later we need to raise that cap again, and we came up with the same exact formula that was used in the past to raise this cap from $300,000 to $550,000, and that is by using the CPI index plus 35%. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. But this bill only changes that expense cap. It does not change another word in the bill. Only the expense cap.
Well, I don't know if we could have stood it if it had 2 words that you had to explain.
I know. I'm so detailed. I'm sorry. I'll shorten it.
Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Chairman. It is glad to see you smiling again. I've got 2 bills for the consideration today. One is HB 323. If members will remember, back in 2017, this House unanimously passed this bill out. It was the Pharmacy Patient Protection Act. Quite frankly, one of the leading PBM bills in the nation at the time. We're simply going to make sure that we are updating and strengthening the existing mandatory mail order provisions. We're also extending these protections to patients of non-pharmacy dispensers, such as like oncologists. So that's what this bill does. Again, remind the members that this was the bill that had the gag clauses in it from years ago, the copay clawback clauses. And we're simply updating and making sure that we're extending those protections to Georgia citizens. Any questions?
You have no questions.
One last bill, Mr. Chairman, as you know, very important to Georgia taxpayers. That is the annual IRC update, and that is HB 419, the second bill from the bottom under structured. One of the shortest IRC update bills we've had, but again, the importance of us moving it through the system quickly so that we can get it out and get it signed so that we can make sure Georgia taxpayers can complete their return.
Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to bring to your attention House Bill 66, license plates for motorcycles, and I also want to place my name beside House Bill 300.
Chairman Efstration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under modified open rule, House Bill 239. This is the Georgia Business Court enabling legislation.
You have a question? Yes, sir.
Chairman Efstration, isn't it true that this, you did ask for that business court bill, right? I thought I heard you say.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that the voters in Georgia overwhelmingly approved our creating a business court in Georgia in the last election, and now all we're really doing is putting the meat on the bone, so to speak, to make sure that it can be carried out?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, almost 70% of Georgians voted in favor of the constitutional amendment to establish statewide business court, and I'm grateful for the Judiciary Committee's work to put forward a really comprehensive enabling legislation in response to the voters' overwhelming support.
And I know you put a lot of time into this, and I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to put my name beside House Bill 365, Representative Blackman's bill. Good step forward toward reducing that rate under the TABT. I'd also like to put my name beside Representative Hawkins' bill, House Bill 242, the massage therapist bill. Probably one of the most misaligned services that there are out there. The division between therapeutic and relaxation is all being skewed in the public's eye, and this starts a movement toward getting those that are the absolute professionals that work on medical cases and such like that, to give them the validity they deserve, and they're not lumped in the same category with the Buford Avenue make me feel good massage therapist.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how to follow that, but based on overwhelming requests, I'd like to put my name beside HB 66. The motorcycle boys are really out on this.
Now, are you and the dean going to go riding together? Mr. Bodie.
To ask for HB 258 under modified structure rule on page 1 at the bottom of the page. Again, Mr. Chairman, it just adds the offense of aggravated sexual battery to the tolling statute for crimes of victim under age of 16.
Okay, no questions, and that appears to be everyone. All right, so let's set us a calendar, supplemental calendar for today. Under modified open, House Bill 212, It's on. Modified open, House Bill 242.
Move.
It's on. Modified open, House Bill 300. It's on. Under modified structure, HB 323. It's on. Under modified structure, SB 52. It's on. Structured rule, HB 132. It's on. Structured rule, HB 352. It's on. Structured rule, HB 419. And it's on. That'll be a supplemental calendar for today.
Matt's got something.
Okay, Vice Chairman Hatchett, you have a motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move that pursuant to Rule 33.3, we limit debate on all bills on the rules calendar for today to 1 hour.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Any objection? It's so ordered. All right, now we're going to set the calendar for tomorrow. Under modified open rule, HB 239.
Move.
It's on. Modified open rule, HB 253.
Move.
It's on. Modified open, HB 456.
Move.
Under pardon me? I thought that she wasn't even going to move her own bill for a minute. Under modified structure, HB 227. Under modified structure, HB 367. Under modified structure, HB 368. Modified structure, HB 491. That's 3 in a row, Darlene. Under structured rule, HB 314. It's on. And under structured rule, HB 365. It's on. And as you probably can surmise, we will probably have a supplemental calendar or two tomorrow. We'll talk about that then. We're adjourned.